She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
Things within the royal family have undoubtedly reached a boiling point, and Prince William is now making a statement that has left everyone around him stunned. In a move that has palace insiders reeling, he's reportedly decided to exclude Queen Camilla from attending the prestigious charity awards created in honor of his late mother, Princess Diana. This surprising decision has led to questions. Was this a subtle act of defiance, or a loud and deliberate statement about preserving and protecting Diana's legacy? Beneath the surface of royal smiles, carefully crafted appearances, and all the usual formalities, a rift seems to be growing, one that can no longer be ignored. What exactly triggered this bold move, and what implications does it have for the future of the monarchy's delicate balance? The truth behind the decision is nothing short of jaw-dropping. To understand the magnitude of William's actions, we need to rewind to a pivotal moment in June 2021. That was when the world suddenly turned its attention to Buckingham Palace, as an explosive story broke that shook the very core of the royal family. The BBC officially accepted the findings of an independent investigation led by Lord Dyson, and the revelations were truly shocking. It had to do with the infamous 1995 Panorama interview with Princess Diana, one of the most talked-about moments in royal history. It was a conversation that the public had always believed to be an honest exchange, but the truth was far darker. The BBC had secured the interview through lies, fake documents, and manipulative tactics that had pushed Diana into an emotionally vulnerable position. The truth had finally come to light, and it left a sour taste in the mouths of many. When the report was released, Prince William stepped in front of the cameras at Kensington Palace. His face told a story of pain, frustration, and sorrow. His voice was calm but carried a heavy weight, revealing just how deeply this situation affected him. He spoke out about the BBC's deceit, saying that it was right for them to accept the findings of the investigation, but he also emphasized the severity of the situation. BBC employees lied and used fake documents to get the interview with my mother, he said, each word measured and deliberate. His statement reverberated across the world, across newsrooms, social media, and into homes everywhere. For William, this wasn't simply a matter of holding the media accountable. It was deeply personal. The anguish William felt about the loss of his mother, Princess Diana, was still fresh, and the reopening of such painful memories was a difficult pill to swallow. He spoke candidly about the immense suffering Diana had endured, not just from the relentless media, but also from the manipulation and betrayal that had taken place behind the scenes. The lies used to gain Diana's trust had left deep scars, not only on her, but on their entire family. William's response wasn't just a public statement. It was a call for justice for his mother and an unspoken vow to never let anyone tarnish her memory again. As soon as William made his remarks, the media exploded. The public began reflecting on Princess Diana's legacy, her kindness, the pain she faced, her tragic death, and the unforgiving way the media had treated her in her final years. William's words were much more than just a public complaint. They were a powerful promise. He would not allow his mother's memory to be diminished or manipulated again. But his comments weren't just aimed at the BBC. His words carried the weight of years of anger, sadness, and frustration over how Diana's story had been portrayed, often unfairly and without compassion. The royal family has long been known for keeping personal matters behind closed doors, always polished and carefully managed. However, this time was different. William's public statement was a raw and honest reflection of his pain. Even Queen Elizabeth was reportedly disturbed by the findings, though Prince Charles, perhaps understanding the complexity of the situation, remained silent. As days turned into weeks, the world could not stop talking. Media outlets, social media, and news publications buzzed with questions about the future of the royal family and how they would handle the fallout from these revelations. William's response to the Dyson report made one thing undeniably clear: the royal family's emotional wounds were far from healed. Despite the years that had passed, Diana's legacy remained a complicated and deeply emotional issue. It was clear that the fight for how her story would be remembered, shaped, and redefined was still ongoing. And now, as tensions within the royal family continued to rise, it was William who stood at the forefront, determined to protect his mother's legacy in whatever way he could. Through the rest of 2021 and into 2024, William quietly worked to protect his mother's memory. He got more involved with the Diana Award, a charity that honors young people for their humanitarian efforts inspired by Princess Diana's compassion. But this wasn't just a public role. For William, it became something deeply personal. William wanted the world to remember his mother in the right way, honestly, kindly, and with the dignity she truly deserved. As the next Diana Awards ceremony drew closer, preparations began behind the royal palace doors. Normally, royal events follow a set of strict traditions, but this time, everything felt different. William was being extra careful about every decision, especially when it came to the guest list. He was determined that this ceremony would reflect Diana's spirit, and that meant ensuring nothing or no one would overshadow her memory. As discussions continued, one name began to surface more often: Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. The relationship between Camilla and Diana had always been complicated. Their histories were filled with heartbreak and years of tension. And for William and his brother Harry, this wasn't just about titles or royal duties, it was something deeply personal. While Camilla had become a respected member of the royal family, the emotional baggage tied to her past with Diana couldn't simply be brushed aside. This was a sensitive issue, and for William, it carried a lot of weight. As the event date neared, William grew increasingly determined to keep the focus solely on his mother. Behind the scenes, whispers of quiet changes began to circulate. The guest list was adjusted, seating plans were reworked, and some royal traditions were quietly set aside. It soon became clear that Camilla might not be invited at all. Making such a move would be bold, going against royal tradition, and shaking the royal family in ways that hadn't been felt in decades. But William seemed ready to make that decision, no matter the fallout. He was standing up for his mother in the most powerful way he could. Every day, the tension built. Would it be right for Camilla to attend a ceremony meant to honor Diana? Would William really go through with it? And if he did, how far would the consequences stretch? Now let's take a closer look at Prince William and the Diana Award. For William, this award is far more than just a yearly event. It's not just a ceremony or tradition. It's a deeply personal tribute to his late mother, Princess Diana. Created in 1999, just 2 years after her heartbreaking death, the Diana Award has since become one of the most respected honors in the UK. Its purpose is to celebrate young people worldwide who embody the same values Diana stood for: kindness, compassion, and a strong desire to make the world a better place. Each year, when the event takes place, it's not only loved by Diana's admirers, but eagerly awaited by young people around the globe. These young individuals hope to have their efforts recognized for standing up against bullying, helping peers, protecting the environment, and supporting mental health. Over time, the award has become more influential, drawing attention from leaders, charities, and the public. But for Prince William, it's never just a public duty or something on his calendar. It's an opportunity to honor his mother's memory in a way that truly matters. Those who work with him say he puts his heart into every part of the event. He doesn't just show up. He prepares thoroughly, reading about each nominee's journey, learning their stories, and deeply absorbing the courage and love they've shown, much like Diana did when she met people in need. In the months leading up to the 2024 Diana Awards, the halls of Kensington Palace were filled with a quiet, focused energy. William, alongside his staff, spent hours reviewing the backgrounds of every nominee. Palace insiders say he was deeply moved by the stories of these young changemakers. To him, they weren't just winners. They were reminders of his mother's spirit, still alive and well in the world. But this year's ceremony would carry an extra emotional weight. New information had emerged about how the BBC had deceived Diana during her famous interview in the 90s. This reopened old wounds and made William even more protective of her memory. He now felt a stronger sense of duty to ensure her legacy stayed respected and untarnished. Because of this, he paid extra attention to every detail when it came to planning the event, particularly the guest list. In previous years, invitations were sent to the royal family, presenting a united front in honoring Diana's legacy. Even Camilla, now the widely accepted Duchess of Cornwall, had attended in a quiet, respectful way. Her presence was always subtle, managed carefully due to her complicated history with Diana. But in 2024, things felt different. Palace insiders noticed a clear hesitation about inviting Camilla. William personally went through every guest list and invitation, making it clear he was being extremely cautious. He didn't want anything or anyone to distract from the true purpose of the awards or cause emotional discomfort. The BBC scandal had reminded everyone just how raw Diana's memory still was for William. While Camilla had worked hard over the years to gain public respect, the pain Diana had gone through with her could never be erased. For William, this wasn't just about royal protocol or appearances. It was about preserving his mother's dignity. By November 2024, rumors started swirling that Camilla might not be invited. The palace stayed silent, but behind closed doors, there were tense discussions. William, though respectful, stood firm. He wanted this year's ceremony to be fully focused on Diana, her values, and the young heroes being honored. Leaving Camilla out was a bold, emotional decision, one never made before. But for William, it felt necessary. He wasn't doing it to stir conflict. He was doing it to protect the purity and purpose of the event. Staff worked quietly to adjust seating plans, guest protocols, and royal formalities to reflect this change. It was clear that William was stepping into a new phase of leadership, one where he was less concerned with royal tradition and more focused on emotional truth and sincerity. As the 25th annual Diana Award drew closer, royal watchers and the media waited eagerly to see what would happen. Would Camilla's absence become official? Would it set a new precedent for how future royal events are handled? Or would a last-minute compromise be reached? Let's dive deeper into the history between Camilla and Diana, and how William's emotional decision came about. The story of Camilla Parker Bowles and Princess Diana isn't just a tale of two women. It's a story that deeply shook the royal family and affected Prince William's emotional life. Their lives became tangled in a web of love, betrayal, and heartbreak that didn't just change the British monarchy's image. It left emotional scars that continue to influence royal decisions even decades later. Before Diana ever entered Prince Charles's life, there was Camilla. Charles met Camilla in the early 1970s, and the two quickly became close, not just as friends, but romantically. However, their relationship was put on hold when Charles left to serve in the Navy. During that time, Camilla married Andrew Parker Bowles in 1973. Despite going on with their separate lives, the emotional bond between Charles and Camilla never truly faded. It quietly lingered in the background, hidden from public view. When Lady Diana Spencer married Prince Charles in 1981, she thought she was stepping into a fairy tale. To the world, it seemed like the perfect royal love story. A beautiful young princess, a future king, and a life of duty, devotion, and love. But behind the palace's grand walls, the reality was far from the picture-perfect image that was being painted for the public. Diana slowly started to realize that her husband's heart still, at least in part, belonged to another woman, Camilla. As the 1980s went on, the cracks in Diana and Charles's marriage became harder to ignore. The royal family worked tirelessly to present a happy image to the world, but behind the scenes, Diana was in constant pain. She knew Camilla was still very much a part of Charles's life. Diana tried to stay strong and maintain appearances, but the hurt was heavy and constant. Then, in 1989, things shifted. It was at a birthday party hosted by Camilla's sister, Annabelle Elliott, when Diana decided to do something incredibly bold. She showed up uninvited, And that night, she confronted Camilla directly. In a private conversation, with her bodyguard Ken Worf quietly watching, Diana looked Camilla in the eye and said, "Please don't treat me like an idiot. I know what's going on." Camilla's response was calm, almost cold. "You have two wonderful boys." Her words left Diana feeling even more isolated, but it was also a turning point. For the first time, Diana had spoken her truth, and in doing so, she'd taken back some control. Throughout the early 90s, Diana continued to struggle with the emotional weight of being in a marriage where her heart wasn't fully loved in return. By 1992, the truth could no longer be hidden, and Charles and Diana separated. Despite the royal family's attempts to keep things quiet and controlled, the emotional fallout behind closed doors was overwhelming. It wasn't just Diana who was suffering, it was also her sons, William and Harry. In 1995, Diana could no longer stay silent. In her famous interview with BBC's Panorama, she opened up about the reality of her marriage, and her words shook the world. "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," she said. That simple line became iconic. It laid bare the pain Diana had endured and cast Camilla as the third person in a marriage that was supposed to be between a prince and his princess. For young Prince William, who was only 13 at the time, watching his mother in such pain on national television was devastating. It wasn't just about the media attention. It was about seeing the woman he loved most fall apart. That moment left a deep scar in his heart. From that day on, William became fiercely protective of his mother's memory. He made a silent promise to himself that her story would never be forgotten and that she would never be disrespected. Then, in August 1997, tragedy struck. Princess Diana was killed in a car crash in Paris. At just 15 years old, William lost his mother in a way that was almost impossible to comprehend. The pain of her loss, compounded by the relentless media coverage, changed him forever. It shaped the way he viewed love, trust, and family. In 2005, Charles married Camilla. Slowly, the public began to accept her new role in the royal family. But for William, this wasn't easy. On the outside, he remained polite and respectful, but inside, the old hurt still lingered. He had seen what his mother had gone through. He had watched her cry, watched her suffer, and remembered the woman who caused so much of that pain. Accepting Camilla wasn't just a matter of royal duty for William. It was a battle between holding on to painful memories and finding a way to heal. By the time the Diana Awards ceremony came around in December 2024, William had grown older, wiser, and more confident in his royal role. But the emotional wounds from his mother's struggles were still raw. Recent revelations about how Diana had been manipulated into the infamous Panorama interview brought those old feelings rushing back, reigniting his protective instincts like never before. This only strengthened William's dedication to honoring Diana in a way that was true, respectful, and free from any emotional confusion. From his perspective, allowing Camilla to attend the 25th anniversary of an award created specifically to honor Diana could risk overshadowing the event's true purpose. It could stir up old wounds, both publicly and personally. His thoughtful and calculated decisions about the guest list weren't merely about royal protocol. They were a means of protecting Diana's legacy, preserving emotional authenticity, and offering space for personal healing. As the event drew closer, William's determination grew even stronger. He understood that the decision of whether or not Camilla would be present carried much more weight than a mere formality. It was a choice with profound symbolic meaning. This wasn't simply about his own feelings toward the past. It could potentially reshape his relationship with other senior members of the royal family. Those around him could sense his quiet but unwavering resolve, understanding that William had already made up his mind. For him, the Diana Award represented something pure, something untouchable and free from controversy. To honor Diana meant ensuring that nothing and no one would take away from her memory. But would William officially confirm Camilla's absence? And if so, how would the palace manage this unprecedented decision? Let's explore further. When the 25th annual Diana Award ceremony arrived, excitement filled the air. Journalists, royal watchers, and the public waited eagerly, not just for the details of who would be honored, but also for a glimpse of what was happening behind the scenes within the royal family. Prince William, with his meticulous planning, had ensured that every detail aligned perfectly with honoring his mother's legacy. But beyond the speeches, smiles, and formalities, there was a quiet tension in the room, one that would soon be made clear. William's careful preparations reflected his deep commitment to the ceremony and to Diana. Photos of her, handpicked by William himself, adorned the space. These images captured her warmth, compassion, and her dedication to helping others. Every part of the event, from the seating arrangements for the young award recipients to the emotional video tributes, was designed to highlight Diana's lasting humanitarian impact. Yet, what grabbed the most attention wasn't just who was there, but who was absent. As the guests arrived, members of the royal family were welcomed warmly by the event organizers. Prince William and his wife, Catherine, Princess of Wales, appeared calm but sincere as they greeted the young honorees. Prince Harry, absent due to his own family matters, sent heartfelt messages of support. King Charles observed from the background, respectful and aware of the delicate nature of the day. But there was one absence that no one could ignore: Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall. Her absence caused a stir, sparking whispers among the media. It quickly became clear to those familiar with William's careful planning that her absence wasn't a mistake. In fact, it was a deliberate choice. Prince William had quietly decided not to invite Camilla to this deeply significant event honoring his mother, though he never publicly addressed the decision. This quiet decision spoke volumes about William's emotional stance on his mother's complicated past. By choosing not to include Camilla, he made a strong statement. Some wounds, especially those tied to his mother's legacy, were simply too personal to overlook. Despite the media frenzy, Buckingham Palace decided not to comment. Officials avoided discussing Camilla's absence, choosing instead to focus on the significance of the Diana Award ceremony. However, this silence only fueled more speculation. Behind closed doors, sources close to the palace admitted that William's choice had caused discomfort. Camilla's absence was especially notable, given her growing influence within the monarchy. Reactions within royal circles were divided. Some saw it as a respectful boundary set by William, motivated by love and a desire to protect his mother's memory. Others feared it might reignite old family tensions at a fragile time for the monarchy. Yet William remained composed and unwavering. Those close to him described him as fully aware of the consequences of his decision, both within the royal family and in the public eye. For William, this wasn't about causing conflict. It was about emotional honesty. By excluding Camilla, he made it clear that his mother's legacy should remain free from any lingering controversies. Throughout the ceremony, William honored the young award recipients with warmth and sincerity, highlighting their courage, kindness, and leadership. His speech focused on his mother's compassion and her desire to bring about meaningful change in the world. This message resonated deeply with the audience, both in the room and those watching worldwide. It was a powerful reminder that Diana's values, so central to William's identity, would continue to guide his vision for the monarchy's future. After the ceremony, media commentators scrutinized every aspect of William's tribute to his mother. While his emotional authenticity was widely praised, Camilla's absence continued to dominate the conversation. In the weeks that followed, royal experts debated the deeper implications of William's actions. Buckingham Palace remained silent, but privately, it was clear that William's decision had sparked considerable reflection. Camilla respected his choice, understanding that some emotional wounds required time and space to heal. King Charles navigated the situation carefully, balancing his support for his son with an acknowledgement of Camilla's place within the royal family. In 2024, the Diana Award continued to expand globally, with William's genuine commitment to his mother's legacy at the forefront. Young recipients often spoke of how his actions had inspired them. By the time 2025 arrived, it was evident that William's leadership style was beginning to shift public expectations. His actions showed that emotional openness could coexist with tradition, transforming the monarchy's image and paving the way for a future that was both compassionate and emotionally honest.